Hey, what's going on, Rotten Poppers, ghouls and ghosts, guys and gals, people out there in the Rotten universe? I am Sid Rotten, and we are here again with the RottenPop Podcast. We're taking a look at 3 movies today. All of them have a theme that structures through them. Today's theme: summer fun, beach fun, summer fun, river fun, just fun outdoors in the summertime. I know that last week we said we were going to do American propaganda. On Reddit, there was a lot of discourse about that. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do the summer fun program right here. And we might have a little bonus episode right at the end of this podcast. Now, you're going to notice that this is a little bit longer than the other podcasts that I've done before. I'm trying out a new format, adding in some commercials that were popular in 1984, since all of these movies are from 1984. I thought that you might enjoy that, get you in the little frame of mindset of where people were at when these movies came out. I have a guest today, Chuck from Werewolf of Berwin from Garbage Pail Flix. I'm glad to have him on board. He's going to be giving us his review of Surf 2, a surfing comedy movie that came out in 1984 and is very, very, very weird. And I'm so happy to have him on board for this. I'm so happy to have him doing it. I can't think of anybody else that I would rather have reviewing that film. Anyways, normal things here. Check me out at RottenFlix on Instagram, RottenPop on Letterboxd and on YouTube. And sit back, relax, and enjoy these 3 reviews.
In the heat, every place, for their taste. The biggest taste you've ever found, the one that never lets you down, the most refreshing taste around.
What up, beachgoers? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to toss this over to our good friend Chuck from Garbage Pail Flix, Werewolf of Berwin. Hey, he's going to tell you about Surf 2.
Greetings. Sid Rotten asked me, Wolfman, Chuckster, Savage of Berwin, from the Garbage Pail Flix podcast show and YouTube channel, to speak about a gnarly-ass flick from 1983, Surf 2, which is my favorite sequel without a first movie, and my second favorite Edward Deason flick after Midnight Madness from 1980. Basically, Surf 2 falls under the 1980s horror comedy, but of the body melt or melt movies, which is just a horror subgenre that features disgusting, gross-out melting of humans. In these movies, people melt for various reasons, be it a meteor they got too close to, or radioactive reporters, or, your run-of-the-mill gym janitorial nerds who fall into barrels of carelessly left about pure toxic waste. It reminds me of street trash, except for it's on a beach with surfers. Anywho, in Surf 2, you have surfers, who bully a nerd named Menlo, played by the brilliant Eddie Deason, from such classics as aforementioned Midnight Madness, War Games, and Grease, as well as tons of cartoon voices. So the D's then goes and exacts revenge in an evil manner on these surfer dudes. Chuck, which is played by young Eric Stoltz, Bob, aka Jeffrey Rogers, who was Andy in Friday the 13th Part 3 and 4, and finally Jocko, played by the late great character actor Tom Villard from Popcorn and One Crazy Summer. Deason creates a drink called Buzz Cola, and when the kids on the beach start consuming it, it turns them into melting zombies. It's campy, it's gross, it's fun, it's a great summer sleeper. Surf fucking 2 has caught some buzz over the last decade, and you could possibly find it on the dark web to view, or overpriced, half-deteriorated VHS tapes can maybe be found floating about. But if you're like me, you just buy the Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray release special edition with sick extras, including a behind-the-scenes retrospect on the film's history and creation. If that doesn't sell you, Exclusive cover art surely will. Surf 2. Cowabunga dudes. Back to you, Sid Pop Rotten Pop Sid.
Turn it off. Cut it. Cut
it off.
Thank you so much, Chuck, for recording that. Glad to have your perspective on Surf 2. I love that movie too. I thought it was awesome. It was definitely trauma at the beach. Well, now we're going to take a look at another film.
After these messages.
Get your skin shined up, grab a stick of juicy fruit. The taste is gonna move you out, move you out. The taste is gonna move you when you pop it in your mouth. Juicy fruit is gonna move you. It's got a taste that gets right to you. Juicy fruit, the taste is gonna move you. Take one step, you know it's gonna move you. Juice so soft, you know it's gonna move you. Taste like this, you know it's gonna move you. Gonna move you to your left, gonna move you to your right. Juicy fruit is gonna move you 'cause the taste is out of sight. Juicy fruit is gonna move you. It's got a taste that gets right to you. Juicy fruit, the taste is gonna move you.
Excuse me.
Isn't summer camp kind of weird? Your parents send you out into the woods with a bunch of strangers for days, weeks, sometimes even longer. Well, I was a camp kid, and my parents would send me off to summer camp and sometimes that dreaded church camp. And I would be lying if I said I didn't have a great time with my friends. That being said, summer camp movies hold a very special place in my heart, especially these movies from the 70s and 80s when kids were just let loose, cursing up a storm. It was hilarious. But not every movie can be a classic, such as our latest rental. Meatballs Part 2 is a screwball comedy film from Ken Wiederhorn, who was last seen on RottenPop back in 1981 when he directed Eyes of a Stranger. This sequel to the 1979 original stars Richard Mulligan, Hamilton Camp, John Mangotti, Kim Richards, Archie Hahn, Misty Rowe, and John Larroquette. It was released to theaters in the U.S. on July 27th, 1984. The film follows the teens and counselors of Camp Sasquatch as they gear up for summer fun, but their plans are threatened when the neighboring military camp across the river decides that they want to buy their land. Coach Giddy, who's played by Richard Mulligan, is the camp's operator, and he decides to gamble the camp's future on a boxing match. Oh, and did I mention that there's a weed-smoking alien in this movie? Well, I guess you're going to have to check it out now, right? The movie's packed with classic 80s character tropes like jocks, bimbos, greaser bullies, nerds, the whole shebang. There's also a cast of recognizable characters. Mulligan is entertaining as Coach Giddy, but he strikes me as a low-budget Leslie Nielsen. Paul Rubens is the goofy bus driver. I loved him in this movie. He has some great moments. I'm a big Rubens mark, so I'm going to be pretty biased about this, and I wish that he had a larger role. Interestingly, child stars Jason Hervey and then a bully in this movie, Ralph Seymour, appear in this film. They would join Rubens in 1985 on Pee-wee's Big Adventure, one of my favorite films of all time. Hamilton Camp and John Larroquette are great. They do this weird, exaggerated, homophobic, closeted alpha male thing, where Hamilton Camp keeps hearing a lisp somewhere, and John Larroquette is obviously very flamboyant. It's pretty funny. I liked it a lot. Hamilton Camp reminded me a lot of the militant father in last year's movie, Packin' It In. The guy that lives up in Oregon and is all Proud Boys kind of guy. It was pretty funny. Larroquette's pretty much just doing the exact same thing that he did in the 1981 movie Stripes. And this is only a few months before he's going to be hitting it big on the Night Court fame, so pretty sweet here. Oh, and there's a kid in this movie who is in the 1983 made-for-TV film, The Invisible Woman. Not a very good movie, and he was pretty much the only entertaining part of that film. It's a shame to see such a talented cast wasted on this material. The writing and the jokes are atrocious. Nothing lands. The highlight is the stoner alien, who has a stereotypical Jewish accent and is clearly added just to capitalize on the popularity of E.T. I chuckled a few times during his scenes, but it wasn't enough to save the movie. I did like the scene where the kids in the alien watch Ken Wiederhorn's first film, Shockwaves. That was hilarious, since that movie is so not age appropriate. But I think this movie just needed better leads. John Mangatti, who gets the most, I guess the second most screen time, is awful. His character is unlikable and one-dimensional. The boxing match that he's in goes on for way too long. The boxing match takes up a good 10 minutes of this film. It's ridiculous. And the weed-smoking alien is the only saving grace at all. I don't know what could have saved this movie. I don't know if Bill Murray being in this movie could have saved it, but I mean, I watched it, I guess. I was so bothered by it. I don't understand why I was so bothered by this movie, but I was. It's definitely not one of the better movies of the year. I'm only going to have to give it 2 stars. I wish that it would do better. Maybe the next film we watch is going to be much better than this. All right, so the last movie that we're going to be taking a look at today is Where the Boys Are, 1984. I guess that's actually the title that the movie officially has. Like, if you look at the poster, it says Where the Boys Are, 1984. But if you look at the title screen, it just says Where the Boys Are. And in the trailer, it tells you that it's called Where the Boys Are, 84. And on some posters, you can find it as just Where the Boys Are. So I'm not sure. All that I do know is that this is a remake of a 1960 film by the same name. This was written by Jeff Burkhart and Stu Krieger. I didn't see that they had done very much outside of this film. This movie is directed by Hy Averbeck, who had directed a lot of movies in the 60s. He directed some stuff in the 70s, and then he was coming to a close there in the 80s. I didn't really see anything specific that really turned my head, but I might have to look back into his stuff later on. This movie, though, makes it really hard for me to want to look at his stuff. Stu Krieger, who wrote this, would go on to do probably the most stuff. He went on to make a lot of Disney features like Land Before Time, Smart House, Freaky Friday, and he wrote Xenon Girl of the 21st Century. So if you've seen that movie, Xenon, then you probably know his work. This movie was produced by TriStar, and it was released on April 6, 1984, just in time for the spring break. So I'm disappointed with this movie right off the bat. There's not very much of a story. It focuses on these girls' vacation to Fort Lauderdale for fun, but there's not a lot of fun at all. In fact, it's not that great of a plot. It doesn't have anything going on for it. There's a couple of guys in this movie. What's his name? Shooter McGavin is in this. Christopher McDonald, that's his name. And his brother, Daniel McDonald, is in this as well. It's fun to see them in here. Christopher McDonald is very recognizable as Shooter McGavin, even though he's wearing a little punk jacket in this, and he's got some coiffed hair style going on. The 4 girls are Lisa Hartman, Lorna Luft, Wendy Shaw, and Lynn Holly Johnson. Eye candy, sure, but really nothing else that is giving you anything to bite on. They don't have any sort of arc that completes them. They're the same people going into this movie as they are coming out of it. Maybe one of the girls learned to be a little looser and a little bit more fun, I suppose, but who knows? This was one of the main problems here, is that this was going to be a female-driven comedy film about spring break, and I wanted to see a film like that told from the female perspective. Unfortunately, what we got was a movie that was directed by a man, written by men who were probably coked up, and was just an excuse to show some TNA on screen. I really wish this one turned out different than it did. Unfortunately, I gotta give it 1.5 stars. I don't think I'd ever want to watch this again, but, you know, go ahead and check it out. Results may vary. All right, so that was the 3 films of summertime fun. 3 films that exuded summertime fun for me that were released in 1984. That was film number 7, number 8, and number 9. And we are going to have a number 10. That is a bonus episode. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to post that over at Patreon. That's right, folks. I'm starting a Patreon, and you can follow me over there at RottenPop on Patreon. Patreon/RottenPop, however it goes. And you can get the bonus episode, 150 Movies of 1984, number 10, Up the Creek. You can also hear that over on Werewolf of Berwin's podcast. Coming up, his next episode, I should be featured on there, giving the review for Up the Creek. And make sure that you like and subscribe at RottenPop here on YouTube. Check me out on Instagram at Letterboxd. Make sure you hit that like icon, hit the bell icon, subscribe to me, do everything that you can. Leave me disparaging remarks, tell me that I owe you money. Just make sure that you go ahead and keep watching film and keep tuning into RottenPop. I'm your buddy Sid Rotten. Have a wonderful life.
Let's all go to the lobby.